Hiya folks, this is Dave Klein from Vibrance Magazine. We're going to be interviewing my great friend John Kohler today. We are on a street in suburban Northern California, about an hour north of San Francisco. Looks like your ordinary street, doesn't it? There's the old pickup truck. And what do we have here? We have John's amazing urban jungle. He's going to tell us all about his Growing Your Own Greens video series and exactly what he's doing here. John's been a live fooder for about 15 years. And he put me on the web. He was my first web host. And he's just doing an absolutely amazing video series to just freely educate people about how to grow their own greens, save a lot of money, and grow the most nutritious food possible. So, howdy John, thanks so much for doing this.
How's it going, Dave?
All right, so we're going to go through the entire array of planter boxes and crops you have here. So John, why don't you tell us all what motivated you to create this incredible urban paradise?
Well, basically, Dave, what happened was I've been growing in the periphery for about 10 years and had a lawn and grew all around the lawn and in the backyard and had 2 community garden plots for a long time. Always been kind of doing it for fun, but at some point on my living in raw foods path, I want to increase the quality of my food and increase and better my diet. So I was already eating a pretty good, clean diet. But the way I could get better was basically not changing what I'm eating anymore, but in changing the quality of the food I'm eating. So eating a higher quality food, a more mineral dense food, and food that's fresher picked, that has higher life force and energy and vibrancy. So that's when I really decided to just pull out the lawn, which is a waste of space. It just wastes water, wastes resources. A lot of people put chemicals on their lawn. It's just really not a good thing in any respect, and then transforming that to save money, so I grow my own food, grow a higher quality food, and grow food that just literally money can't buy. I come out here and, pick my dinner 3 minutes or 2 minutes before I eat it, before I juice it, before I blend it. It's really fresh, grown in organic compost and rock dust minerals, which adds the minerals back into the soil so that I don't need to take a mineral supplement. I don't have to believe in the whole mineral sham. Because if our food had the minerals, we wouldn't need to take a supplement.
And it tastes absolutely delicious. I just love grazing on greens and the cucumbers. I'll be back. All right, so let's start off talking about how you actually implemented this entire process. You stripped your lawn and you got all these building materials, and what was the plan?
Sure, Dave. Well, the plan for me, basically was to start off and to maximize the use of my space here. So to maximize every square foot of my lawn to grow food. So we did that by basically building raised beds. And there's a whole, on my website, growingyourgreens.com, there's a website, and I show the process of basically when we have the lawn, basically digging it up, putting in the irrigation system to pop that up first, to plan that in advance. And then we built all the beds with the little walkways in between. The beds are built 4 feet wide, so on one side you could pretty much reach in for 2 feet. The other side you could reach in for 2 feet. That way you don't have to ever walk on the beds. The other thing is this bed actually happens to be waist high, so you don't have to bend over to harvest your crops or anything. All the beds, as they go straight back my property, they're at the same level, although my property kind of slopes. So at the top of the property, it's about 12-inch high raised beds, and these ones are about 30 inches or so. Basically, I found the material, so I got a really good deal on this material. It's cedar wood, so I only use natural wood. I don't line it with any kind of tar paper or any kind of PVC pond liners. That's toxic stuff. Wood will break down, and that's a thing that I'm gonna do when it does. If and when it does break down, I'm gonna replace the wood. I mean, these boards basically cost me 45 cents each, and I bought 2 pallets of this wood, and that's pretty much what dictated what I was going to do. And then I just designed how I was going to do it, and we built it, and it's here. And basically we did one step at a time. We literally built over the lawn, then we did sheet mulching and put cardboard over the lawn, and then filled up the beds with compost and planted in them. And then later, we put in some of the nice brickwork we have for the walkways instead of the grass.
So you had truckloads of compost dumped right in your in the roadway here, and you shoveled it all in, and you added your rock powder.
Absolutely, Dave. We had a big 18-wheeler rig come on, and there's a video on my website on showing the truck unloading. It was a big 18-wheeler. 60 cubic yards of compost were dumped actually right where you're standing. We had a compost bridge, and we made a tunnel, and I crawled underneath it, jumped up on top of it. That was a fun job, but that was a lot of work to shovel that much compost. And on a seasonal basis, actually, I go and get about 6 to 10 cubic yards to fill up. So you can see this bed here. We're basically replanting it for the summertime, and after every season, all the compost compresses down, and we don't stomp on it. It just kind of naturally goes down, so we have to keep filling it up and bring it up to level to bring new compost in, to bring more nutrition back in.
Do you ever add more mineral supplements?
Oh, absolutely. So every time we add in the compost, we add more rock dust. And actually, we have a bag of rock dust sitting right here. There's a bag of rock dust there ready to go back into the bed here. And this is just basically, it's just powdered rocks. It just is a really fine powder. This is a Gaia Green Glacial Rock Dust. It's really high in minerals, and it's very important to add the rock dust to your soil when you're growing food. It'll make your food actually taste better. It actually makes your food taste sweet because it's the minerals that make our food taste sweet. And also your plants are going to be healthier and more disease resistant. So there's a good website for your viewers, Dave. It's remineralize.org to learn more about rock dust and remineralization.
And of course, our good friend and vibrant staff writer, Don Weaver, is a contributor to remineralize.org. And so let's see, so the rock dust is usually guaranteed to have at least 95 over 90 minerals. So we need an abundance of trace minerals. We need a broad spectrum of trace minerals in our soil to get into our plants so that we all have a great chance of being nourished and having vibrant health. So we're not just looking at some crushed rock here with a few minerals. We're getting about at least 90 minerals.
Absolutely, lots of minerals, and adding rock dust is real important for people that can't add rock dust. You could also do like they do ocean water. Another company called Ocean Grown sells this stuff. You could actually add in, it's a liquid. It's considerably more expensive than the rock dust, but it can be another viable option. I actually use 2 different varieties of rock dust and the ocean grown minerals to ensure that my crops are getting all the minerals they need.
Okay, why don't you take us through a few planter boxes here, explain what you have. Maybe we'll start with this incredible kale tree, collard tree.
Sure, Dave. This is called a tree collards, and we need to stake it a little bit better. But this grows as a perennial. It grows 365 days a year here in California, and it just constantly will throw off these nice leaves. And the leaves, I consider them a kale. Some people would, technically it's a collard. But basically just eat them like a collard or kale. You could eat them raw, blend them, juice them, use them for wraps so they get nice and big. And they grow 365 days a year. What many people don't know is that some plants, you plant them, they'll grow for like one season, and then they go to flower and seed, and then basically you have to replant and start over. With these ones, you plant them once, and they keep growing, for up to 5 or 6 years I heard, but they also said that these plants go up to 5 or 6 feet tall, and mine are 12 feet tall. So.
And every year they're delicious, and you can harvest your salad greens year-round. Unbelievable, amazing.
Round, every day.
Absolutely. And what about winter climates where it's snowing? Will this actually grow in that kind of a climate?
That's a good question, Dave. I don't know. This does great here in the winter time, and there's some varieties of tree collards or this kind of plant that grow for a long season. This is the one that grows 5 years. They have one that grows like over a year, walking stick kale, and other things. Some are more hardier, but if it's snowing outside, probably not going to happen. You probably need to do some protection.
All right, so let's go to the next planter box here so we can cover pretty much the whole gamut. Got what, a zucchini?
Yeah, here's a zucchini plant. Zucchini plants take a lot of space, so this is basically a 3 foot by 3 foot area, and we've kind of, made it compressed between these fencing here. And we have the fencing here to keep the zucchini controlled so it doesn't grow out everywhere, but also on every vertical space. And it's very important, since I have a limited amount of space, I need to grow vertically to grow up, because I don't have a lot of dimensional space. So we're going vertically here, and we're just growing some pole beans up all these trellises around the zucchini plants. So the zucchini plants throw out their leaves and the beans grow up and tall. The beans also fix nitrogen back in the soil.
Last year you had a amazing crop of melons here. Are you going to try the melons again, or is that too much?
Yeah, so here's the melon trellis.
Oh, here we go.
We did melons last year in that bed, so I tried to do crop rotation. And in this bed, we're doing the melons, just one row in the middle. And this is a 6-foot tall trellis. We're going to grow those vertically. We have 2 different varieties this time. One is actually called Melon Petite from the seed bank store, rareseeds.com in Petaluma. The other variety is intermixed. It's the crane melon, which is a Rohnert Park native melon that the guy invented here. So it should do good for this climate, because this climate here is maybe not quite hot enough to grow melons optimally. So these 2 melons should do better in this climate. And then on the outside of the melons, because melons are going to grow up straight, we have some pepper plants and intermixed with the marigolds. The marigolds I love to eat for the lutein and zeaxanthin, but also they're good, to they dissuade bugs from coming around.
Alrighty, and next we have strawberries. It looks like you already had a good crop.
Yeah, next we have strawberries. They're doing pretty good. I need to tweak it a little bit. I think we're overwatering them for a little bit. But that's about 100 strawberry plants here in this 4-foot by 15-foot bed. And when they were doing really good, I'd be getting like a little pint a day. So that's definitely, nice for smoothies and whatnot. This next bed here, I think we have about 70 pepper plants. So a lot of sweet peppers and some hot peppers mixed in there. I like to use fresh peppers. And some plants yield more produce than others. So for example, these tomatoes on this side, we have a bed here. This is about a 40-foot bed by 4 feet wide bed of tomatoes mixed in with my fruit trees. And one tomato plant may put out about 10 pounds of fruit or tomatoes per plant, whereas a pepper plant will put out, just a couple pounds, if that. So you got to have a lot more a lot more peppers to grow a significant amount to actually feed yourself than tomato plants.
Okay, so now we've really come to the jungle. These are more kale trees.
Yeah, so these are the tree collards here, Dave, and you can see I'm standing already about a foot or a little bit more than a foot off the ground. I'm about a little bit more than 5.5 feet tall or 6 feet tall almost, and they just still keep going up. They're about 12 feet tall off the ground, and I mean these are perennial tree collards. They're amazing. You can pick these, and they just keep growing back all year long. And I aspire that everybody should be growing perennial vegetables, and that's vegetables you just literally plant once and you just pick and eat off them every day of the year, and you don't have to replant them. So there's not too many in subtropical climates like where we are, but if you're living in the tropics, there's at least a dozen or more perennial vegetable crops that you could grow easily. So if you live in Florida or Hawaii, I'm envious.
Well, these are just fantastic, and they don't taste too intense or peppery. They're nice and soft, and you just want to add them to a salad every day. So this is amazing. Salad greens every day. All right, so in the back here, what do you have in front here? More cucumbers?
Yeah, Dave, so in front here, once again, we're trying to maximize our use of the space. So we've made this trellis system that goes along the back, and we have these out shoots to get more upright growing space. And these are all cucumbers that we're training to grow vertically up this trellis. And then in the middle, as a short season crop, we grew a lot of radishes. So the radishes, you could eat the roots, of course, but a lot of people don't know that you could also eat the radish greens. And so one of the varieties of radishes in here are specifically a radish grown for the tops and for the greens. And the radishes are actually in the the brassica family, and they have many of the same benefits of eating greens of the brassicas.
All right, let's check out your lettuce garden.
We planted the lettuce near the back here because lettuce doesn't like the summer and getting too much sun and getting too hot. They tend not to do well. So we planted underneath the overhang where it's going to stay a little bit more protected and not as hot. So it's doing really well here. I personally consider lettuce a high maintenance crop. So if you're just getting into gardening, I don't necessarily recommend growing lettuce. I'd recommend growing something like these guys. These guys here, the collards and the kale and the kohlrabi, were planted at the same time as the lettuce. The lettuce is on its way out. You can see they're getting kind of tall and going to be bolting here pretty soon. And that's when they get pretty much unusable. but these guys right now are in their prime. So I'd recommend people growing this kind of stuff. Plus, these guys, have a lot more nutrition. Much more darker leafy green. Not to say that lettuce isn't good for us. It definitely is, but I prefer to grow what's easy and what's going to really yield me more produce and easily. And, definitely in most cases, a bunch of kale sells for more money than a bunch of lettuce. And lettuce is a little bit more difficult to grow and has a shorter season. So I could get, 1 or 2 crops of kale where I'd have to plant 3 or 4 crops of lettuce in that same duration.
And what is the schedule for your drip irrigation? Is that going around the clock intermittently at what kind of intervals?
Sure, yeah, Dave. So I have this timer box over here that basically controls all the drip irrigation. And this is basically just a sprinkler control box for standard lawn sprinkling. We convert it to run all the drip irrigation. And right now we have it set up to go off once a day for like a minute or two. And that will wet the soil enough in the morning and basically keep it wet enough for the plants to live. And, pretty much as everything's doing well.
And in the summer when it gets really hot and intense down here in the valley, do you need to add more water or irrigate more frequently?
Well, this is our summer schedule. And if you just get the ground soaked down, we're growing in all compost, and we're watering at the base of the plant so the water goes right into the root zone where it's needed. I mean, we might end up like taking a hose and hand watering if we see something not doing well, but pretty much this is doing pretty well, and we could adjust every bed. At every bed we have a ball valve that we could adjust the flow rate, so we could actually adjust more flow rate or less flow rate.
And how long are you dripping when you are doing that irrigation?
It's about a minute or 2 a day, actually.
Okay.
So really not that long.
All right. It looks like you have some cilantro here.
Yeah, so I have some cilantro here in the shade because, once again, they bolt really fast. I also have I have a couple of herb beds up over here. These are my 2 or 3 herb beds. And we have a couple of cilantros in here, and these are all different herbs. I have all these different basils. This one's actually a perennial basil, which is kind of cool. A purple basil. Rao Ram, I grow exotics from Asia that are also, edible. Go-to cola, another herb. These ones are cool. They're from the tropics. This is called roselle or hibiscus, and they grow really well in Florida and Hawaii. You can just eat the leaves off that. They have a nice sorrely type flavor. And of course, dillweed and lavender. And this is our out of control herb bed. The cilantro, when it goes to flower, the flowers look like this, and the flowers of cilantro are actually more delicious than the greens. And then after the flower stage, then the cilantro goes into the seeds. And the seeds are here. They haven't quite dried out yet, but these are actually coriander seeds, or cilantro seeds are coriander seeds. Behind me here, to maximize the use of my space, this is the wall of my garage. We have grapes growing, so you can see the grapes growing here up against the trellis. And in front here we have artichokes, so this guy is about ready to get harvested here.
And how do you eat the artichokes? I love them, so why don't you tell people how they actually do it?
Sure. Well, how I eat them is basically I'll cut them down, and you could basically pull off each one of these leaves, and at the base of the leaf, just like if you cooked it, there's a little fleshy part that you could eat. Now, it's a lot harder if you're not cooking it. But so I'll eat a little of those, but then basically I could still eat the heart. So I cut it all out, and the heart, if you pick it fresh, is still nice and tender. And it has that same flavor, but it's just not quite as soft, and it's still good. So I end up cutting off a lot of the outside stalk and just leave the main middle of the heart to eat.
I love that. All right, so let's talk about this amazing plant here.
So this plant here, this is my alternative tomato bed or Solanacea bed. This has different plants all in the tomato family. So this one down here is called Pepino Melon. It's from South America. This one is called Morel de Babis, or actually more appropriately, the English word is lychee tomato. It has these spikes on the plant. I have a Incan berry or poha berry in the middle of this growing vertically. We also have Aunt Molly's ground cherries, a couple plants on the outside.
Okay, I think I see some more peppers.
Yeah, so here's some more peppers here, and at first this bed wasn't doing well, and in gardening, just like life, you need to experiment and see what works and see what doesn't work. So this bed at first wasn't doing well. We found out, we did some soil testing, and we found out we were deficient maybe in some nitrogen, so we had to put some back in there, and then everything, straightened
And what
out.
was the source for the nitrogen?
The nitrogen source, we did some hydroponic organic nitrogen solutions. So we just sprayed on some liquid mixed with water.
And do you plant a lot of this stuff from seed, and a lot of it do you buy the starters?
Sure, yes, that's another good question, Dave. So a lot of these plants actually were started from starts. So I recommend for most people that they start, if they're starting and they're new at gardening, they start with starts because you're going to have a much higher success rate. Because the big problem is when you germinate the seeds, they may not germinate. The other thing is when the seeds are baby, they grow really slowly. But once they're to a certain point, then they could take off and grow exponentially faster. I do start some seeds. So like these guys, these lychee tomatoes were started by seed. The pepinos we started by seed. I bought the some of these other ones here. All the flowers were pretty much started, with starts. All the radishes are from seeds. Arugula that we plant is coming up in the front bed. That's from seeds. So, I do a mixture. It's probably like 40% or 30% seeds and, 60 to 70% starts. I have some really good resources here in this area for some affordable starts. And if people could sell me, plants for inexpensive, like my lemon cucumber plants cost me about anywhere from, 15 to 20 cents each. It just makes it worth it for me to let the experts start them and I could just plant them.
And in the back you have some good looking kale.
Back here we have a kale. This is the standard kale. So my fig tree shading it out now. And these are red Russian kale and some dino kale that we have growing. We just harvested some last night. But yeah, these are going to flower and seed now. So the production for the leaves are pretty much going downhill at this point. And that's why the tree collards are so nice, because you could eat those all year long. We're going to have to really pull these up here pretty soon and then replant.
Okay, and then you have one of our very favorites, which grow really well in the hot summers here and in the fall. This is our fig. What kind of a fig tree do you have?
This is a brown turkey fig, Dave. And let's see there. You can see a lot of figs forming. One of the problems I have here, it doesn't get quite hot enough for this variety of figs. So I get a good, 2 years ago I had really good ripeness. Other years, I get a fraction of what could be ripening up. Certain varieties of figs need more or less heat, and I learned that after I planted this. And there's certain varieties that could do better with, less heat. So there's even some varieties that'll grow well in the Pacific Northwest. If you get the right variety, they'll be ripening up.
So your trips to the shopping marts, the health food stores, the farmers markets have really been cut down because you're growing almost all your greens right here.
Absolutely, Dave. So I grow 90% of my vegetables. There's some things I just don't try to bother to grow. I tried to grow celery last summer and it really didn't do well. So I'm going to focus on what grows really well and how I could save the most money. Or I could struggle at growing some celery, although celery, for a head is like $1.50. It's just not worth it. We'll let the experts do that. But you know what? I could grow really good kale, really good lettuce, and a whole lot of other tropical fruits. I have Malabar spinach or Malabar spinach greens over there, and you can't buy Malabar spinach greens. I have lots of lamb's quarters coming up that actually I didn't plant, that you can't buy lamb's quarters. I grow stinging nettles to eat, and you can't grow stinging nettles. So I've expanded the amount of things that I'm growing, which expands the nutrients that I'm taking into my body, and also, saving money because I'm growing most of my vegetables. I do still have to buy a significant portion of my fruits, and I'm not quite there yet. I need to have pretty much an orchard to be able to grow enough fruits to feed me.
Well, this is absolutely inspiring for everybody, and boy, I have a tough time not just popping in my car and coming down here for dinner every night. But when I do get to graze here, it is just absolutely wonderful. There's nothing like fresh greens, and of course it's all mineralized, so you're just getting the absolute best food that you can absolutely get. So everybody can check out your websites and your video channel, which are
growingyourgreens.com.
Thanks so much, John.